Welcome to Oh Hell No with Nicole.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Oh Hell No podcast. Today we have Samantha Parker and Kathy now I'm gonna not say it right because just say it for me.
That's okay. It's Rasmussen.
Rasmussen. Yes, they are the founders and operators of Badassery Magazine. They have a Badassery podcast. They do a whole host of other things, and we're gonna find out all about them today. So thank you for being here today, Kathy and Samantha.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I'm so excited. So guys, how did you meet? And I'll throw that to Kathy.
Well, it's so funny. We actually met in real life at a conference, and we were introduced by a mutual friend. Both of us have experience in the event industry. Samantha was in the floral industry, and I was an event planner, and we got introduced by a mutual friend. And really at the same time, we were both starting to kind of decide that our current jobs were not what we wanted to do anymore, and developing our own business out of our own passions. Mm-hmm. And so it was a really great time for us to get introduced to each other.
Wow, yes, I love that. So you guys said that you were in like event planning and floral business. So why did you decide that it wasn't something that you wanted to do anymore? Samantha?
Yeah, well, when you have like something passionate in your life and you know that there's a bigger picture for you, sometimes it gets really hard to just go to that 9 to 5 every day. And for me, the 9 to 5 was like 9 to midnight. If you've ever worked in floral, people think it's so fun and you play with flowers, and that's just a big goddamn lie. Basically, you work, really, really late on Friday nights, 2, 3 in the morning doing proms, whatever's happening. And then you flip weddings all weekend. And so it was just physically exhausting and mentally exhausting. I've worked in healthcare, and I worked in the hospital, and I even worked hospice for a while. And honestly, being a florist was harder.
Wow. And what about you, Kathy?
So I spent a lot of time wanting to be an event planner. Like, this was my dream job. And at least I thought it was my dream job. I love planning events, and I still love planning events, and I love planning weddings. And I worked my way up in the status as an event planner to the director of my department. Like I worked for a very popular restaurant in Salt Lake City, and I was the director of the private dining department. So I was in charge of, I had a whole staff, and I thought this is my dream job. But I suddenly realized that instead of fulfilling all of my dreams, I was fulfilling other people's dreams and working for other people's goals. And what I was doing and what I was producing and feeling so good about doing wasn't good enough for those other people. So it started eating away at my soul. And instead of being really happy and fulfilled and feeling accomplished and seeing all of these really cool things that I've done, I started feeling worse and worse and worse about myself, and started thinking, why am I doing this? I'm missing everything at my house. I'm missing, school plays, and I'm missing spending time with my family and watching my kids grow up. And one day I found myself out behind, it's 10:30 at night after everybody is, the events are wrapping up and I'm ready to go home, go out to my car behind the building and sit there and cry. Like literally tears streaming down my face, thinking, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I so miserable? Why is this happening? And thinking that there's got to be some way to get out of it, that I can be happier. And so that's what I did, was I created a new passion that I wanted to live for, and it was for me, and it wasn't for anybody else. It was for me, and I wanted to do that and be successful and earn money and be able to support my family and do all of those things on my terms instead of on someone else's terms.
Wow, that is so powerful, because a lot of times we have this idea of what we want to be, like, oh, I want to be this when I get older, and I want to have this career and be working these hours and traveling and whatever. And then when you finally get it, it's like, oh my God, this is totally not what I wanted. So it's just always so interesting to me when I hear people say that, they had the career, but it still wasn't fulfilling. So do you know, when you decided to leave that career, did you have an idea what you wanted to do? Did you have an idea about this magazine or, pursuing other things as well as the magazine? Or were you just like, I'm just going to try to figure it out, but I know this isn't what I want to do?
I know for me, I didn't have any sort of backup plan or anything. I was just finishing up my bachelor's degree in communications, like with an emphasis on technology communications. And I was like, oh, I could do something online. Mm-hmm. And I kind of just stumbled into this whole big online world. So I left my job with no backup plan other than I knew that I needed to live a life because my life seriously would have ended if I stayed there. And so jumping in online, I just built it from there. I know Kathy has a much different story, but she started building an online business a little more planned than I did.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of how I live my life. I'm like, we'll just see if it works.
Okay. Well, Kathy, come on, let's hear your story.
Well, I had already started my online business before I quit my job. So I knew that I love how, well, actually, one day I just realized that all of these events that I plan and all the projects that I work on and all of the things that I do, I all approach in the same manner. Like, I figured out that there was actually a method behind how I plan an event. And it doesn't matter if it was a dinner for 4 people or if it was a wedding for 300 or if it was a corporate party for 2,500 people. I did exactly the same steps for every single event. And those same steps applied to any kind of project that I would work on. If I wanted to start a business or if I wanted to, go on a trip with my family, the whole thing was the same process. And so what I did was boil down those steps and just basically figured out what those steps were and turned that into a system. Mm-hmm. And I took that system and turned it into helping other people take their visions and turning them into reality. So I had started my business as an idea implementation strategist using that methodology that I developed through my event planning process. And so I had started doing that. And that's why I'm a little bit more planned out than Samantha, because that's what I do, is plan stuff. Wow. But I had already started developing that business, and I realized I couldn't do both. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't. It was to a point where it was too much to try to do both. And it was so miserable at my full-time job, I needed an exit strategy. And so I created I developed an exit strategy for myself. I set a deadline. If this is when I'm going to quit, this is my last day. This is how much money I need to have in the bank before I can quit. These are, I created a little scenario for me and a path to move on to. Mm-hmm. And it all kind of happened exactly how I planned it out. It was great. Sometimes it doesn't work like that, but I think I was passionate enough that this was going to happen, and it did.
So of all the things that you guys could have done, what made you want to start an online magazine?
So the online magazine really was just an idea that came to us, and then we both just ran with it. Mm-hmm. One of the big things for me when I was working online, I grew a very successful social media management business. See, great things happen when you just jump. Yeah. But I grew this business, and I just had kind of gotten to the point where I was seeing so many marketing tactics of, hey, pitch to this blogger, hey, someone else needs to talk about you. And so I felt like too many people were in charge of other people's success online. Mm-hmm. And I just kept thinking about it. And I was like, okay, you know what? There needs to be a better solution. There needs to be a platform where we all collaborate together and where we all rise together, instead of one person just at the top teaching all of these strategies that may or may not work. And so that's kind of where the idea for Badassery Magazine was born. I just had this idea. I'm like, what if people contributed? We shared all sorts of kinds of stuff, and obviously it's evolved so much from, it's been almost 2 years now. So, but I just created a memo. I was sitting in my bathroom. Apparently that's where all the good ideas come from, is when I'm doing my hair, And I created this memo and I sent it over to Kathy because we had developed this really good business bestie type of relationship. And I was like, do you think this is a good idea? And she's like, I want to do it. Let's do it. And it took us 45 days before we put out our first issue.
Oh, I love the name. I love the concept. It's just so cool. You guys did a really phenomenal job with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So how do you guys divide the responsibilities?
We just throw darts at a bulletin board and we just see what works.
No, I think that we're really lucky because Samantha and I have very complementing strengths. Mm-hmm. So the things that I'm really good at, she might not be as strong in. The things that she's really good at, I'm not as strong in. And so the tasks tend to divide themselves based on our strengths. And the things that either neither of us are very good at, then we usually will outsource those things. Or if we both are strong in that area, then we can, divide it up as time allows sort of situation. But it really comes down to working with a business partner that has complementing strengths so that we actually it sounds kind of, cliche, but we actually are greater than the sum of our parts. We work better together because we strengthen each other.
Do you guys ever have major disagreements, or have you ever had a major disagreement? And if you did, how did you resolve it?
This is going to sound so fluffy and stupid, but we never have.
Not anything we couldn't overcome. We've had disagreements, but we do talk through it and we'll hear each other out and try to make a good decision that's best for the business and not based on our own personal feelings.
Yeah, and obviously there was no feelings in it because I can't even think of anything.
Yeah.
Right, that you still feel so strongly about, right? So when you're doing this magazine, what takes the most time in terms of working on stories? Because I looked at the magazine and you guys have some really great stories and they're meaty. It's not just 2-3 lines of stuff. It's real good, full page stories on each person. And what takes the most time to put that magazine together?
Well, really the whole big picture of things is we are more than just a magazine. So the magazine does take a lot of time. In fact, Kathy still designs the entire issue. But people contribute to it. And last issue, we focused on female founders, and Kathy spent a lot of time sitting down and interviewing. So that does take a chunk of time. But honestly, our biggest time goes into nurturing our community. We spend a lot of time on Facebook, but our community, wherever they're at, if they're on Instagram, Facebook, our mailing list, we do tons of lives. We do tons of virtual things. We do lots of in real life things. And so really our magazine time goes to the community.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So how do you guys decide who gets the cover every month?
We actually do it kind of intuitively. I know that it sounds kind of funny, but a lot of it comes as just how comes through feelings that we have. Mm-hmm. And then also what kind of message do we want to share with our community? So those two kind of things combined, we've had people pitch us for cover story ideas before and things, but ultimately, if it doesn't feel right of what we think our audience needs to hear that month, then we're not going to put it on the cover, regardless how good your pitch is. So we kind of are a little more intuitive in that area.
Yeah.
And it's also, we want to make sure that people can see real people. So we did take 2 months ago, the February issue, we did take those photos, we set up a photo shoot just for that. Mm-hmm. And we called that the Body Love photo shoot, but it was so that we could put a real woman on the cover looking exactly the way she is, just so people could understand that success is not defined by that next 20 pounds that you lose or that you look a certain way, and that success really comes from the passion you have inside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. okay, when you start an online magazine, how do you gauge how it's being received?
That's a good question. I think that a lot of it, I mean, there's two ways you can measure it. There's numbers, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how many people are reading your magazine, how many people are, opening your emails and that sort of thing. But then there's also the buzz, the discussion that people have around it. Yeah. And to us, I think having a really engaged community and having some really good discussion and interaction and around that, and especially in our Facebook group, we can see that it makes a huge impact, even if our numbers, even if we didn't have as many magazine opens or page views or that we'd like to, but it's the impact that we're making on the people who are reading it. And you can tell that by the conversation that's going on.
Yeah. And do you ever get like ideas for like future issues from some of the community, activities that you do and like the lives and the things like that?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Again, like all of our time is spent in our community and the magazine is community sourced. So we take contributors. If you go to badasserymag.com, you can contribute and pretty much do everything from there. But it's very driven by the community, what we're seeing. Like we are so hands-on involved. Like people can have personal conversations with me. It's just that we want to be present. We want to make sure that we are inspiring people. We are being great leaders and inspiring them to just be like badasses in the world.
Yeah, I love it. So do you guys have any plans to make the magazine available like hard copy?
Yeah, well, it is available currently. You can purchase a hard copy. There's not like a hard copy subscription that you can sign up for, but you can purchase hard copies through the magazine viewer that we have. But I think that we are looking into ways to making it a little bit more accessible to get a hard copy. But it just is it's what the magazine, we designed it, and the reason why it only took us 45 days is we looked at the most the easiest, the most low overhead and cost effective way for us to get it out to people that would be accessible. And the way to do that is to go digital. And so that's really what we wanted to focus on in the beginning. And I think that there will be a place eventually where we will have a hard copy that you can purchase, but I don't really foresee us ever being on a newsstand in a grocery store or anything like that. I think that we're really kind of more boutique and more niche than what you'd find in a grocery store.
Yeah, and the digital copy, like you can read it for free if you just go to our website. You can read all of the issues, and that's something that we really strive for, is making sure that everybody can get their hands on this inspiration.
Yeah. So thinking back, you guys probably, did not know that you were going to be doing this, right? You didn't. Did you?
No, this was not
original.
Right. So when you think back about, the stuff that you've done in the past, is there any one thing that you can align with where you are today, where you say, that's why I was doing that. It makes so much sense for what I'm doing today. Like, because sometimes I look at my past and I'm like, well, what the hell am I supposed to be doing? Because I don't even understand this path. Like, but, at some point you could be like, wow, that's why I had to do that, because I'm doing this now and it really plays a part.
I mean, there are so many incredible things. If you just look back over the business journey, one of the things I think that's so great about us is we have failed a lot. Like, we try a lot of things, but we always just get back up and we're like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And, even if you think back to the whole path of your lifetime, some of your biggest struggles, things that I even wanted to keep hidden in my closet type of things are really now what inspires people and motivates them to follow us and to change their lives the way that we have.
Yeah. So when you guys I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I have always felt, even when I was young, that I have something really important to say and to add and a major role to play in this world. And I think that I don't want to sound too like full of myself, but I really do think that Badassery Magazine is what that is. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I was feeling this whole time. This is that. So wow. I can take this and share my message and share my voice and inspire people and make a difference in the world, and have fun and living out my passion while I'm doing it.
I love that. So what do you guys do when you feel discouraged? What keeps you going?
Really, again, I keep saying it, but I love to just jump into the community and see what other people are doing. So when I get feeling discouraged, I read the letters I've received, the posts that I've saved, and I just look at the people, the things that they have to say to us. They're like, wow, if she's doing it, I can do it too.
Mm-hmm. And I think looking at to see what is good at what's happening right now, like it really helps me to think about what I'm grateful for whenever I'm feeling super discouraged and like, this is just too much. It's too much. I can go back and think, okay, Kathy, reframe. You got to reframe this. What are you grateful for? What's going good? What's doing well? And it just helps so much get back into that mindset of prosperity and abundance and helping people instead of going down this downward spiral, because I've been down the downward spiral and I've been there to the lowest points of that downward spiral, and without the gratitude and the realizing it's so much better in reality than what you're feeling, that's what helps pull me out of it for sure.
Nice.
We also like to drink wine. Does that count?
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm grateful that we can drink wine.
That's right. So what are two things, if you could give us two important things that you guys have learned since starting this magazine that you can share with people who might want to start an online magazine? Like if you had to give two little gems for people.
Yeah, I'll give one, and then I know Kathy could share one. But I know that the whole motto, like build it and they will come, is a bunch of bullshit. And so, like, if you're going to start anything online, you really need an audience. So start building your audience now, start sharing your message, start delivering with passion, and then make sure that everything you deliver is consistent, because really consistency is the only thing that's going to guarantee your success here.
Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, exactly. That's exactly what I would say. It's the two things are community and consistency. And if you've got those two things, then you're gonna be killing it in business.
Yeah. So what made you guys start the podcast?
Well, that's a funny question. It actually originally started it with Debbie Pace. She helped us set up our podcast. She co-hosted it with us and got it going. Mm-hmm. And so really it was just a need. Like people kept saying, you guys should start a podcast, and so we did.
It was peer pressure.
We absolutely did. But now we've had, incredible journey of the podcast. We've talked to incredible authors like Denise Duffield Thomas, Rebecca Campbell, Gary Vaynerchuk was on our podcast. And so it's just been a really I just feel like the podcast is a wild ride. I'm like, who do we get to talk to today?
I know, right? So what do you guys enjoy the most about it? Just talking to different people, or is there any one thing?
I like talking to different people. I think it's a great way to have that. It's like a more depth of content than you can do with a blog, or that you can do with, just putting out a magazine. It gives people more insight into a little bit more into your personality. You get to meet interesting people and talk about interesting things and just start. It's more of the conversation.
Okay. So do you guys have any pet peeves about podcasting?
I don't think so. One thing is when people are just very there's no personality, I guess, and sometimes I just wonder if maybe they're nervous. I don't think I even have a pet peeve about podcasting. I don't know. Is this a trick question?
No. There has to be something that's just annoying, I don't know. Okay. So, what do you think makes you a badass?
Well, we go off of the term badassery, which means to render all onlookers as awestruck, and I feel like we literally live that life, I built this from nothing. Kathy and I did this without, startup funds, and we bootstrap a lot of stuff. If it needs to be done, we get it done. And, we do it while working, and we both have kids, we both have families, we both have outside, things that come into our life a lot, how life just gets there. Mm-hmm. But, I feel like every single day, both of us get up and we just are what's the best thing that's going to happen today? Every day I'm just incredible things are going to happen. And really, to me, that is being a badass. So don't give up. We might cry, might scream, we might throw shit at the walls, but every day we get up and we do it again and again and again. And that consistency of believing in ourselves really has gotten us to this point.
Yeah, and I think it's also really like not letting other people stand in our way and not changing who we are to please other people. I think a lot of being a badass and showing your true badassery is really just showing yourself and being authentic and being confident in the fact that it's okay to be myself. Like I'm cool with being myself now. I mean, it's been a journey, and sometimes it's harder. Other days are harder than others, but it's like if I wasn't myself and doing this because it's something that I want to be happy with my life and I want to feel that passion and I want to work in my zone of genius, that would just make me feel like a phony. It wouldn't make me feel badass at all, even if I looked like the most badass person. But because I can be myself and work in my zone of genius and be happy and be with my family and do the things that are important to me, that to me is why I'm a badass.
Yeah, you guys are definitely badassery girls or women. So what is the key message that you want readers and listeners to get from Badassery Magazine and Badassery, podcast, your whole brand?
I think the main takeaway is that, being a woman and being a woman who owns a business is one of the greatest things in the entire world. Like, there are no glass ceilings, and like literally you can create your future if that's income, if you want to speak in front of millions, whatever it is that like we are all stronger together and we rise together. And honestly, we're looking for women who are out there looking for their community, and like we openly invite them to come join our tribe.
Nice. All right. So now you guys are on the Oh Hell No podcast. So you have to each share an Oh Hell No moment. And an Oh Hell No moment can be a positive thing, a negative thing. It's just a moment where you had to really pause and be like, oh hell no. Maybe it was a negative thing and you had to say that and control yourself so that you wouldn't do something or say something really off the wall. Or maybe it was a positive thing that you didn't expect and you're just like, oh, hell no, I can't believe this just happened. This is great. So we want to hear your moments.
There's been so many. One of my oh hell no moments that was great was like when we found out about Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, I was sitting in my office and I've never acted like this before, but I fell off my chair and I just was laying on the floor, like laughing and crying. Like, I was sobbing because I was so happy. And I was like, oh hell no, is this really happening? Because Gary Vaynerchuk is one of my like role models. I'm a social stalker.
Yeah.
But then I also think we have oh hell no moments in the form of like recently we entered a collaboration and I was like, this isn't going to work. And so also being able to say no to the things that like don't feel good, that for me also is a oh hell no moments. But yeah, that's mine.
I would have to say my recent like positive oh hell no moment was when we got to record an interview with Now This, and we flew out to New York. We were doing all the New York things and got to go to the Now This offices and see how they do everything behind the scenes. And then we walk into their studio and there's lights and microphones and cameras. And I'm like, this is so legit. This is so legit. And getting to sit and having them ask questions about what we're passionate about and how we want to make an impact in the world, and being able to share that on such a wide spread level. Like, I mean, they have 13 million followers on Facebook alone. Wow. I mean, that's big. So to me, that was such a huge thing. And I feel very proud, and I also am very grateful and feel very blessed about just the whole situation. So
that's awesome.
I know when they were like taping the mics to the inside of like my jacket, I was like, oh hell, this is legit. So that yeah, I agree. I was like, oh hell no, this is happening.
Wow, that's nice. Congratulations, guys. That's awesome. So it was It was such a pleasure talking to you guys today and getting to know you and your mission and everything that you're doing. I really love it, and I think it's amazing. So please tell everyone where they can read Badassery Magazine and listen to the podcast and catch your live, shows.
Yeah, so you can find us everywhere, pretty much at Badassery Mag. But honestly, if you just go to badasserymag.com, you can jump in our Facebook community. Like, we're openly inviting you to come join our journey. But you can listen to our podcast. You can read all of our issues. Like, it's just a big, awesome central hub.
Okay. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.